Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Experience Talk podcast. And today we'll be talking about something a little different, like how can you drive your CX strategy using OKR and PMO. I'm Tanuj with my dear friend NK, as usual. And today we have a CX influencer, an entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, and a trainer from Asia. His name is Carsten Ley. Hey, Carsten, welcome to our podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi Tanuj, hi NK. Thank you for inviting me. I'm fine. Thank you.
You're doing good. So, Carsten, before we begin about the discussion about the topics of OKR, CX strategy, I would love to know a little bit about yourself. Okay, can you please tell us with the audience?
Yeah, my name is Carsten Ley from Asia PMO. I'm originally from Germany. I live since almost 10 years in Vietnam. Before I also had some stints in the UK and Mexico. But seriously, my career started in Germany, back in Citibank and Deloitte Consulting, more as a project manager and as coordinator in finance and banking. And then I
Mm-hmm.
came to Vietnam and I worked for Home Credit, a finance company a lot of people maybe know in Southeast Asia, as a general project manager. And then, because I did a lot of operations project, I came across the new CX customer experience project, and they gave it to me. So I was then named CX manager, and I was the lucky guy who changed his career from project manager to CX manager, building up CX in Home Credit Vietnam. And
Okay.
I did that for around 1 year. And then
Mm-hmm.
a startup, and it was very exciting for me because I never worked for startup. I also worked for banking and finance. A startup, Lazada, part of Alibaba Group, came
Right.
along and honestly snatched me with a very good offer to be VP CX Lazada Vietnam. And it was a
Oh, wow.
really nice career change. So I got from PMO into CX thanks to Home Credit. Then
Right.
thanks to Lazada, I got in the e-commerce retail startup world. Yeah. And I
Okay.
was 2 years VP CX for Lazada. It's also the change when Alibaba came, a lot of cultural changes, a lot of transformation going on. And I also came in touch with the OKR topic for this time, and I will tell it later. And
Okay.
then after Lazada, me and my partner, we founded Asia PMO as a consulting company for customer experience, project, agile implementation in Singapore and Vietnam.
Awesome. That's really nice to hear. And one word I specifically loved, Carsten. You came from project management to customer experience, and you named customer experience also as a project, customer experience project. Why would you say so?
Because actually a lot of companies started as a project, right?
Right.
And also when we do consulting with companies, because they are not sure yet if they want to put customer experience as a strategic initiative. I mean, if you
Okay.
put it as a strategic initiative, then it should go 1, 2, 3 years, and you have to make change management behind, right? You have to
Right.
get your company customer-centric level on each level, front end, back end, yeah? If you
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm not sure if customer experience works for our company, why don't
Mm-hmm.
you do it as a 3 to 6 months limited project with
Right.
some units, maybe some front end operation units, and we look at the feedback of the customer, see what we can improve, and if that could be a driver for your success or for your sales, let's say in a 3 to 6 months. And also
Right.
if your company is ready for that from a mentality and change management perspective, right?
Right.
Then if in the 3 to 6 months we are at least successful, let's say with one product, with one unit, yeah, to improve something, then you make a decision to put it as a strategic driver.
Okay, so it's like you first find something that this is for you, and then you start implementing the whole strategy part. So just doing a
Yes.
little small actions which drive some kind of value, so that
Yeah.
you can show it to people across the organization that this will be valuable if we keep on going uh, around this route. Is it?
And that's very important. You know, a lot of people, I mean, CX, customer experience, similar like also project management, PMO, whenever you do something more central, you take away power, especially from the middle management. And they
Right.
won't like it because suddenly there's a central department, customer experience, which looks end-to-end customer journey collects the feedback, and is running around in the company and saying, hey, the app, there's some stuff which is not very well. On the delivery, there's something not going well. Operations is not going well. And people don't like that. I mean, before they had their own little kingdom as departments had and as team.
Right.
And then somebody centrally empowered, ideally by the CEO, is
Mm,
running around and telling them not what they think, what the customer think, but it's still, and in order to sell that, you have to make a success case first. That's what I
right.
try to say. So if one business unit, let's say you have one product, yeah, and you say on this product, we listen to the customer, we implemented this and this stuff, it doesn't cost so much money, and we sold more after 3 months. That's what team leaders want to see, right?
Right.
CX at the end for top levels is about what can I get out of it money-wise,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
you have to prove that, and you need around 3 to 6 months to prove it. And if you have one successful business case, then the change management is easier.
I think this is a very excellent point. So, like, I would relate this to product management as well, or when a startup gets found, you first create an MVP, right, to show value to your customer. Now, the things that you mentioned, so for customer experience, you create a small MVP to show value to the whole organization so that they can bring that up and the change can be easy. Other than that, you hire a CX leader who comes around and just pointing it out to everyone that you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you are doing that wrong. And otherwise just create, like, have one department, a small department, accept this as a part of a project, and then build a case study and build it around the company. This is
I
excellent
mean,
stuff,
just to
Carsten.
be clear, yeah, just to be clear on the change man, of course, the CX leader at the beginning is perceived as somebody who's pointing around arrows. I had that role 2 times in Home Credit and in Lazada. And you are not the most popular person at the beginning when you take over the job. I mean, also, yeah. But you have to make people understand that with your CX team, yeah, with the project managers you have in the CX team, with your analysts you have in the CX team, with the power that you can help them on research, you're creating a win-win, right?
Right.
We help you as a CX team to make focus groups for you, to do surveys for you, to
Mm,
understand the customer better, to help you to negotiate with other departments when you need something from them. It's the same on PMO. PMO is
right.
not only a project control unit. It's also, hey, I have a project and the sales guy is blocking me. The ops guy is blocking me. And as a PMO, you normally can help them to get
Yeah.
these blockages away, like what you call a product management impedance, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I love
Mhm.
this. Okay, Carsten. So let's jump to the topic that how you make this project management actually, or the CX part of it, actionable, right? So of going towards that, I before we start, I just have a simple question that you can answer easily. What is OKR?
So OKR is actually a planning and management tool, which is called objective and key results. So the name already indicates it has two parts, objective and key results. And it's around for 20 years, started by Intel Google. So it was very
Right.
IT related, like
Mm-hmm.
agile in generally. So we call it like the agile planning method, right? Internally. Um, and now and more because of COVID, for sure, because it's a 3 months planning cycle. So even a
Right.
lot of traditional companies, I mean, we had a request from Unilever on OKRs, for example, right?
Wow.
And Unilever doesn't strike you like a company who has a 3 months planning cycle, but they are changing their teams to it because in a COVID world, it's tough to plan like KPI numbers ahead for 1 year and
Right.
keep them as a target out. If the world can
Mm-hmm.
break down or markets can change within 1 month drastically. Yeah?
Absolutely. So OKR is like a, it's like a 3 month planning thing. Like we do OKRs like you mentioned, but we have done mostly in the product teams. That's where OKRs have been used, and slowly, and we are blending them into the marketing team as well. And I agree with you. The good thing about OKR is like it's agile. And if I talk about a KPI, like you mentioned, if we do it for a year, it's not agile because anything can happen. Like COVID showed us that, right? So you mean to say that the OKR can be involved around the teams, right? Everywhere inside the company.
Yeah, what we actually advise, and I mean, a lot of companies do exactly what you do. They start in a team. Yeah. And similar
Right.
to what we said to CX, if you're not sure about OKRs, start in a team, especially the most agile team, and make a success case out of it. But ideally,
Right.
an OKR implementation starts on company level because you
Mm-hmm.
define 3 to 5 company objectives per
Right.
quarter, and
Mm-hmm.
then you build for the teams or for projects sub objectives.
Right.
So even big companies come to us and we are like, oh, the last 3 months, every team did their own OKR,
Right.
which is nice for a practice, but it's not the spirit of OKRs because the
Mm-hmm.
OKRs should align and point to one OKR set on top. So you cannot just start bottom up, do your own OKRs because
Got your
then
point.
you marketing works towards more customers, sales works towards a total different objective, you know. So we need,
I understand.
if we
Yeah.
want to roll out it for the whole company, we first have to define company OKRs.
Hmm.
Then you create for the teams or for the departments subsets of them.
Okay, got it. So, like you mentioned before as well, like we can start the OKR with a smaller team, and if it is becoming successful, we show a case study, and then we try to build a company-wise OKR, and then the team OKR are just subsets of those OKRs, right?
And subsets doesn't mean it's not like KPI that you just do what they want on top. It
Right.
also means that they can have ideas, but the ideas should go under the strategic alignment. Yeah. So on company OKRs, we got them from the strategy, mission, vision. Sometimes
Right.
we help a lot of startups even to help them what is mission, vision, and strategy, right? To
Right.
have a little bit of, or what they call North Star, that they have a North Star for the next 2 or 3 years where they
Right.
want to go to. Yeah. And then out of that, we build 3 months company objectives. And what we do in very agile company, we send these company objectives to everybody as an anonymous survey and let them comment on it. So it's not really top down. So it's a top down proposal with
Mhm.
bottom up input or more ideas. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's an excellent point. And how would you like now you mentioned the key results are generally similar to KPIs, but what would be the difference between a complete OKR and a KPI, Carsten?
Okay. So a KPI is very one dimensional and directly measurable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So OKR objectives don't have to be measurable. They can be more inspiring, which also
Right,
helps on the employee experience, right? I mean,
right, right,
think about SpaceX and Tesla bringing people to the Mars, electrifying the world. That sounds cool. It sounds cooler than making $10 billion, and everybody has that, or being the best and being number one. It's always the same, yeah. So that's very
right.
inspiring. So you can make it as an objective, but then
Mm-hmm.
the key result is separated as measurable part. And
Hmm.
we often use previous company KPIs as key results. I mean, some companies they come from KPIs to OKRs. So in
Right,
sales, of course, you use the sales KPIs directly as key results. And you
right.
cannot make them more inspiring. I mean, a sales number is a sales number. I mean, you can put it in pink, maybe it's more inspiring, but you cannot make it better in English. Yeah. Sorry. And I don't know if all my OKRs colleague agree with that, but for me in sales, I still call them KPIs. But you can
Okay.
also say KRs if it makes you feel better.
No,
But
I
then,
think it makes sense, and it's like it doesn't mean to be that OKRs need to be put everywhere. Like sales will always be KPI driven, right? Or a key result
yes,
driven. Yeah.
but you can put a more inspiring objective above the KPIs because I
Yep.
said KPIs is like KR level. And
Right.
this is very one dimensional, and sales is sometimes one dimensional.
Hmm.
But other key results, where you say a key result should be a product launch. A product launch is measurable. It's not an
Right.
objective. It can be a key result, right?
Right.
30th of
Absolutely.
June launch, 10th of July 1,000 clients. These are two very measurable key results
Right.
under a product launch. And that can be done with the help of different departments or with a project. And then it's rather a key result because it's multi-team, cross-functional.
Right.
KPIs historically are very, very one-dimensional.
Very
People
one.
even don't work together and don't see that they have to work together.
Okay. And Karsten, so when did you actually found this love for OKRs that you have now,
Actually,
and why?
I didn't find love. I mean, when I was in Lazada, my second year in Lazada, the Singapore headquarter told us from one week to another, we have to change from KPI OKRs. No training, no change management, no why, and just send us some slides, and we hated it, honestly. I was in charge of CS and CX.
Okay.
So for CS is very KPI driven. So it was very hard to get in OKRs. It was very
Right.
number driven, right? Call ratios, spending per agent and stuff like that, right?
Right.
So the way they did it in Lazada at the beginning, I really hated it, right? And then later when I picked it up as Asia PMO on the consulting, and I did it with the first clients then, with the knowledge I gained from Lazada, how not to do it, I really started to see the point. Yeah, that we really, because it's also a new topic, employee experience, right?
Right.
That we really get everybody aligned towards a common goal. That's the beauty. So you can ask, if you do it very extreme, you can ask the cleaning lady in your company and say, yeah, I mean, the cleaning lady in SpaceX says, yeah, I clean here because we go to the Mars. Yeah, she doesn't clean here because she cleans the corner. She cleans because the engineering team needs a clean environment to build a rocket to go to the Mars. That's a beautiful story. Maybe a little bit extreme, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but absolutely. So that is actual true employee experience, actually, Carsten, what you
Yeah.
just mentioned. Even if the cleaning lady knows about that objective, that this is what we want to do, which is super inspiring. So
Yeah.
whenever she goes to work every day, so she's just thinking about in her own way that I am somehow helping this team go to the Mars, right? Or build
Yes.
something that.
And I mean, that's what you need. I mean, when people ask you in a normal life, what are you doing? I mean, I work for the 10th bank in a country who has a KPI target, and you don't tell that your friends, and it's super boring. Nobody wants to
Right.
listen to that, right? We want to be number one. We want to make 10 million this year. But it's like, I work for a company who brings people to a Mars. I work for a company who makes a cool app for that and that, right?
Right.
I work for Unilever, who has the best washing powder, which all my friends are using, by the way, right? It's a cool story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
actually a story.
in KPIs, you lose track of that because in KPIs, you only see your little part of work. Yeah.
No, I get this now, why they are important. And the one question that comes to my mind whenever, like, whenever I read about OKRs, whenever we included OKRs in the product team as well, that we were told that put your goal as high that the people can only achieve 70 or 75% of it. What's the thought behind that, Carsten?
I mean, that the people only can achieve, I would not say. I would say that
Okay.
the people realistically can achieve
Okay.
70%.
Okay.
I mean, only means that you really push them then harder. So for us, we say if you go from 70 to 100%, 30, 40% should be the maximum stretch. Yeah. It doesn't have to be only 40, but I'm not agreeing, and that's where SpaceX comes in. You don't put a 500 or a 10,000% stretch on your team. So that's a little
Okay.
bit a guideline, because if you put a 10,000% stretch on your team, you're frustrating them. I mean, Elon Musk is saying since 15 years, we go 2025 to Mars, and we are not going 2025 to Mars. If we are lucky, we go to the moon, but it's already exciting, by the way. But the
Right.
moon is maybe, what is the moon? 20% of Mars? I don't know how to measure that, right? But it's a different mindset. But in normal companies, this super stretch, more than 40, 50% doesn't work, because then you frustrate people. So
Right.
if I ask you realistically by your calculations, what can you achieve? In the sales team, if we work like we work today, we achieve, I don't know, $70,000, then make it 100,000. Yeah?
Okay, so they should not be super stretched, and if they have to be super stretched, because if we talk about a growth stage company who are like having 100% growth or 300% growth, so how do they measure this OKR? Like, because they're stretching it out, so do they increase the team or do some different activities to stretch that goal and not frustrating the employees as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important part you mentioned. In the OKR planning, OKR planning at the beginning is what the management wants with the feedback of the teams, what we achieve the next 3 months, and what the teams feedback with the current capacity, what they can achieve. And what they
Right.
can achieve are the 70% number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if
Right.
you say, I don't want to achieve 100, I want to achieve 5, 600, then
Mm-hmm.
you have to probably increase the capacity and the resources.
Right. So that's how OKRs. So because you have been working on this, so this is the way you increase the growth level to not 100% but to 500, 600.
Sure.
Increase the resources, do more marketing, like a lot of stuff that comes around. In growth stage, it's mostly about acquisition, right? So that's how. Uh,
Mm.
okay,
That's
and
that's the same thing, sir. The same thing in very agile company who even a 3 months planning is already too slow. If you after 1 month come with new objectives and key results, you have
right.
to either increase your team or you
Mm,
have to deprioritize one of the current OKRs. Because
right.
remember, it's a promise at the beginning of the 3 months where I said, this is what we want to achieve. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody is focused on that. OKR is focused. Now suddenly you come with something else, which deviates the focus, which is
Mm-hmm.
dangerous because the less you focus, the less you finish. You know
Right.
that from product, I guess. Yeah. Then
Absolutely.
second, you are overstretching your resources. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
you can then not finish anything at the end of the quarter. So
Absolutely.
when an owner or somebody comes in the middle of the OKR quarter with a new idea, we are really having this discussion and not just
Mm-hmm.
saying, cool idea, let's do it.
Okay. So before we jump to the CX, one last thing uh, on this OKR. How, like, if you have set a plan of 3 months, right? And like we are living in the agile world, and sometimes you have to change the plan or deprioritize something. Like you have put 5 objectives and you are prioritizing 3 right now, and you next month you review the OKRs again. So we can change them during that 1 month planning, right?
I mean, I would add I would add some prioritizations and I would not completely change them. Our
Okay.
advice is for 3 months, you should at least keep the objectives stable. The key
Okay.
results maybe can
Mm-hmm.
change, but maybe not how you formulate the key results. Maybe the numbers can change. I mean, if I
Mm-hmm.
see in 3 months I want to do 100,000, and after
Mm.
1 month you have $2, it's
Right.
completely unrealistic, and you burn your team. If after 1 month you have already $90,000, of course I would increase it because otherwise, what does the team do the next 2 months, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
there, I would probably go a little bit with the values up and down. That's why we have
Mm-hmm.
monthly or at least 6 weeks in the middle of the quarter, what we call stage gate review. But
Mm-hmm.
the objective I would not touch, and I tell you why. Because you tell me we focus the next 3 months on these 3 to 5 things as a company
Right.
leader. If you
Right.
change it after 1 month, I get a feeling you don't have your management under control and you are not a good leader, honestly. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
cannot tell me what do we do the next 12 weeks, it's not such a long time.
Right.
If nothing drastic happen now the
Mm-hmm.
next 3 months, I
Right.
mean, then you are very jumpy management and you drive me crazy. I mean, every month you come with a new idea and I cannot finish my stuff. And that's where people maybe leave.
Mm-hmm. So that's also important for like the trust that you build in employees. You should actually, like, you should know what you are doing, right? That's why you become a leader.
Yeah.
So that's why people follow you. Okay, and that's a very good point. So NK wanted to ask a question because he he
Yeah,
always talks about how. Go
I've
ahead,
been
NK.
I've been listening to Carsten like so far. So I think that's great, inspirational, Carsten sharing that. I think I like one thing that the OKR has to be something that is inspirational, but it could not necessarily to be miserable, right? But where the KPIs needs to be miserable. So I like that idea. Now, I wanted to understand from your experience is to how these OKRs can help in driving the CX strategy of an organization, Carsten.
Okay, so what is the beautiful thing which we found out about OKRs is you have 3 to 5 company OKRs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first 2 or 3 slots are always taken by sales, productivity, I mean, every founder and every CEO will tell you, yeah, we need a sales objective. We need a productivity objective. We need a market objective, something which brings really money. And then
Right.
when we still have 2 slots open,
Mm-hmm.
for we can also do 6, 7. I mean, the 5 is just an indicator. I always ask, what do you do the next 3 months for your customer, and what do you do the next 3 months for your people? That's how we come to customer and employee experience
Experience.
objectives on a
Mm-hmm.
company level.
Right.
And sometimes they forget it. They give me 5 very sales-driven ones and number-driven ones. And I say, oof. So in the setup of OKRs, in the 5, I always try to remind my clients, let's put at least one where we improve the customer experience as an objective, and then we
Right.
put key results below. You want
Mm-hmm.
to improve ratings, you want to improve a product, you want to improve the number of feedback. Yeah, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
OKR helps a lot to blend that out. Because
Mm-hmm.
CX is measurable. CXA is inspiring, so an objective is
Right.
easy to find. Yeah.
Right.
Next 3 months, we want to understand our customer. Can be an objective. Very
Yeah.
easy and simple. The key
Right.
results are a certain amount of surveys, a certain amount of analysis. Yeah. Then
Mm-hmm.
after that, the next 3 months is analysis or already implementation quick wins. Yeah. So the
The
CX cycle
actions.
actually fits very nice in these 3 months. You can do everything in 3 months, or you can say the first 3 months is understanding and analysis, the next 3 months is implementation, the next 3 months is customer-centric culture. Yeah, these are very soft objectives, and then that's sometimes missing with CX department. With the key results, force you to make them very measurable. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
money-wise or feedback impact-wise.
Right.
Great, great. Yeah, I like this one. So just to relate this with, I think just wanted to understand when you were in Lazada and managing this entire CX there. So like, and you have already shared that you didn't like the there was not things been changing. So can you share some learnings out of that? If if somebody is setting up the OKR for a large enterprise customers, what should have been there, and what you should, if you now want to go back and change something, then what you would change?
I mean, I would have hired Asia PMO directly. Just kidding. Okay. Um, so the first thing is you have in these big companies 3 to 4, 5 layers. So you speak about company OKRs, department OKRs, team OKRs,
Right.
even sometimes individual, which we don't advise.
Mm-hmm.
Because for us, OKR is a team approach, right? Um, now, the first problem is, do you want to do all 3 layers in 1 quarter? We say no. We say maximum 1 or 2 layers. So we would
Mm-hmm.
say make 3 months first the company OKRs together
Okay.
with the C and the head level. So always go one level down in the workshop where you do the OKRs. So the C and the head level together is doing the company OKRs. And then they
Mm-hmm.
get the data from their team and they measure it and it's okay. And then after 3 months, this level is hopefully a fan of it and knows what to do. And then you roll it out to department level. And then another 3 months, you roll it out to team level. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very good change manager approach. Yeah. So I would not roll out 3 levels of company organization or even 4 levels in 1 quarter,
Right.
because change management is a top-down approach from an implementation side. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to win first the leadership level, then you go to the mid-level next quarter, and then you go to the team level, because these levels have to be facilitators. Yeah. The second thing we learned with some of our clients now is they have OKR champions. So people in the company who are very good between departments, maybe project managers who already work cross-functionally, are
Right.
fantastic OKR champions who can fast. It's a little bit almost like an agile, like a scrum master role. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like a role where you run behind people and say, KR, why only 10%? That's more the team leader role, right?
Right.
But they can facilitate these calls, the weekly
Mm.
tracking calls and the trainings and the workshops to say, okay, our spirit should be, if we talk about if achievements are too high or too low or not on spot, why they are there and how everybody can help this person or this team to achieve the KRs in the quarter. So it's a very agile helping spirit. And
Mm-hmm.
OKR champions are also a very good thing we try to build up in our. So we are, of course, as a consulting company, first the external OKR champions, but
Right.
after 1 or 2 quarters, we would like to hand over, and then we have internal OKR champions.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
think. Sorry.
mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Then.
one question on this, NK, sorry. Um, like you mentioned about OKR starting from the top, right? So let's suppose it's the other way around. Let's suppose you want to first drive this. So you have a goal. Like if it is not OKR, then there definitely will be a goal, right? Improve customer experience or employee experience, and then you have some key measures. So let's suppose it is starting with the CX, right? Like a small project. Can it be like starting with that CX team and then it gets rolled out to the whole company? Can it be like that as well? Like you mentioned before, that CX can start like a project, a simple project. So can it start
Yeah.
from there and then go up?
Sure. I mean, as a success case, right? So
Hmm.
what you can do, CX and PMO are fantastic starting points because they're already very centralized departments,
Right,
right?
right,
So you
right,
already have the collaboration spirit from OKR inside. So
right.
I would not choose like a single team like sales marketing. CX PMO is a great start. Or in one
Mm-hmm.
of our client companies, they use the project. So we put OKR just on this project, yeah, as
Right.
part of the
Okay.
project planning. Objectives
Mm-hmm.
for the project, key results, or what we call deliverables. That's the same
Right,
actually. Key
right.
results, deliverable milestones. Yeah, very similar. And that is good. So you run it for this team for 3 months, and
Mm-hmm.
then they hopefully get fans. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody on this team can be maybe even OKR coaches later. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because OKR coaches should not be the top leaders. You don't want a scary CEO as your OKR coach. Not, you want somebody you on your level, buddy scheme, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a very good start. CX team is great for that.
Okay, got it. And go ahead, NK now.
Yeah, I think like one thing here is that you talk about this OKR champions, right? So similarly, that when we drive the CX adoption in the organization, we also create CX champions, like who facilitate and the other people and make sure that they understand the objective. So in your perspective, is this OKR champion and CX champion is the same role, or do you see a differentiation here?
I mean, the OKR is a tool, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
OKR is not that we achieve OKRs like we achieve
Right.
CX. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so the OKR champion role is more a facilitator role, similar like the Scrum Master. Yeah. So you are facilitating the calls, you are facilitating the coordination between the departments to achieve certain objectives. Yeah. A CX champion, and in Lazada we call them CX ambassador, was one person per team, which really was like the evangelist of CX and reminding the teams all the time, hey, today we have a meeting. We spoke about sales, we spoke about profits, but we never spoke about a customer for 1 hour. Let's speak 10 minutes about a customer. What does this initiative help the customer? So
Right.
CX ambassador or champion is a very evangelist role who wants to drive CX
Mm-hmm.
to as a topic. The other one, OKR champion, is more facilitator of a tool or of a methodology.
Got it.
Okay.
So I think in your one of the previous conversation you said about like CX team is kind of when you start like it say that okay, this customer is not happy due to this product feature, and even the sales process is not good, there is need an improvement. So they start putting fingers, right? So just trying to find where is the gap. And sometimes, likely said, that everybody does not like to listen the gaps, right? So how this OKR champion and the CX champion is able to reduce the friction within the organization, so that like OKR can be driven across the organization, Carsten?
I mean, the key underlying principle of OKR and CX is data and measurable results. Yeah. I mean, people can like or not like anything. If you have measurable results, nobody can argue against you in a company, right? So if OKR really helps the cross-functional collaboration and achieve, and also, I mean, it's not only about achieving OKRs. OKR, one thing we haven't mentioned is the transparency, because you should make all the level transparent, that people knows where they are working for in the company and where the company stands for, right? That's also one thing, to include people information wise. Yeah. And the same on CX. I mean, if you have a CX ambassador and a CX department, and they more or less force you to listen to the customer and to make new initiatives, you have to prove that initiatives make this leader more successful in a mid or a long run. Yeah. That pleasing the customer helps. I mean, in Lazada, I can give you one example. Of course, the sales was called in Lazada commercial. So we had a lot of commercial like managers who were in charge of a category. So I had one guy, he was in charge of fashion. And at the beginning, we had a hard time because fashion has a lot of returns and the pictures were too good to be true and the descriptions were not nice, right? And we had a little bit of hard time to convince him to make the return policy easier and so on. But then after 1 year, he understood, so earlier, he understood CX very well. And he came to me and says, Carsten, I want now the same return policy for shoes, for t-shirts, for everything. And it was his idea. It was not our idea. He was like, can you help me to get that through in the company? Can you help me to talk to legal? Can you help me to convince the CEO? Can you help me to get it on the webpage as a product? Can you help me that marketing blows it out as a campaign? Yeah. So we came after a year of friction on a level to say he saw the value in CX. He say, oh, if I make the return policy the same for everything, I have more customers because we made a small project with him. And that's where you have to come. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to summarize this conversation. Like I actually loved it. So if we talk about like how to bring CX into the company, the first can be start with a small project, use objectives and key results to deliver it so that you can show value to people, right? Once you have that success story, you bring that as another one piece in the company wise OKR, where you mention, okay, now this is what we did and now this is what we want to do next, right? A small OKR like improving employee experience, for example, or customer centricity, a very small project. I would not say like the whole customer centricity, but some parts of it. We put those key measures, and now those key measures, because that CX part is also a part of the OKR of the whole company, can be the part of different teams. Now you have a small objective for the whole company, and that objective, you will create a subset of that in every or department, different departments, right? So you started small, then you went to the company wise OKR, and then you went to the subset where everyone in the company is now involved with a very small objective. Is my understanding correct, or my summarization correct?
And the beautiful thing is then you do that 1 quarter and people say, yeah, we all like to work for CX. So after 2-3 quarters, and suddenly somebody decides, or maybe they did it before, CX is now a key strategy of the company. So it will never disappear from the 5 objectives the next 20-50 quarter. We will just rephrase it, you know? It's maybe you don't say that. Maybe sometimes you make it there to stay. But maybe one day you say, and people are not stupid, they're like, oh, CX never goes away. It's like sales. It never goes away. Every quarter we have a CX objective. And then
Right.
you have to admit it's a company strategy, right?
This
But
is
via
excellent.
OKR, you make it 2-3 quarters successful, first on team level, then on company level. Very beautiful that you say. If it's on company level and you ask, who is in charge of CX? And then they will say everybody. And then, ooh,
Everyone.
we all have a sub-objective in CX. Yeah, ooh.
This is absolutely excellent stuff. I actually learned a lot today that how you link all these together and how you actually can drive customer centricity through this. Now
Sure.
everyone can be involved. This is actually a lovely conversation, Carsten. I actually learned a lot today.
Yeah, great. I think like great experience of Lazada. I think as an PMO objective. So yeah, I think we really loved your feedback today, Carsten. Yeah, great.
Yeah. And I have to say, Lazada 2 years was a stint, was really
Right.
good. Despite what I said, it was amazing, right? Amazing experience there. And I really learned, they helped me a lot to get into this agile startup thinking,
Right.
which is a banker before, honestly, I didn't have, right?
Right.
So I also had to pick up there a lot. That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that that's
I
all
think,
for
yeah,
uh,
just before we wrap up
yeah.
today's session, I think I want to ask Carsten, is anything other sound bites you want to share with our listener as a keynote? Like what would be something like that?
I mean, in both topics, OKR and CX, don't be afraid, just start them. If you are not convinced about the topics, as we said, start with one team and try them.
Right.
Yeah. If you are
Absolutely.
convinced and you want to do it on company level, start with the top first. Get your leaders aligned, get them be a
Mm,
fan of OKR and CX first.
right.
Yeah. That's a little bit the key part, right? And
Hmm.
both topics, the main difficulty is the change management. The
Yeah.
main difficulty, you can read the books, there's thousands of material, how to implement and what to implement OKR CX is not so complicated. The
Hmm.
change management part, the constant involvement of the people for ideas, for
Hmm.
objective key results, for customer centric ideas, for
Right.
having the drive to think about a customer, to talk to customer, yeah, even that has to come from the people, and that's change management.
Right.
That's the main match. These are easy topics. They appear easy. Yeah, try it. If you want to fully roll it out, start on top and really focus on the change management.
Right. I think that will happen once you start doing it. Like that's why the CX teams are important because they are actually definitely there is one thing they are in charge of. Although the CX is the whole company thing, is understanding that voice of the customer data and presenting insights to those different teams so that they can think about something, right? So that is
Yeah,
one thing that should just keep on coming. Understanding that VOC part, if that keeps on coming, I think the new objectives and ideas will keep on coming if we are doing that.
but with customer centricity, we go step one step ahead. The VOC part should come from everybody. You know, when we
Right.
started focus groups in Lazada, I
Mm-hmm.
invited always like 6, 7 manager from teams who never see clients, sales
Right.
teams, production teams, to sit in and observe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said, everybody, I mean, the joke I made in Lazada was like, customer experience start with experience the customer.
Right.
And think about C levels and heads and back office team who never see a customer. So in a
Mm-hmm.
long run or in a mid run, you should also enable them not only to see data, because data is sometimes boring, let's be very honest on
Right.
that, but to really maybe bring them
Feel.
to customer. We brought in Lazada, it was amazing. It was an idea
Mm.
from my CEO. We brought customers and partners to town halls to speak in
Mm.
front of the people, you know? It was
Right. That's a good
amazing.
idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So VOC also get the team interested
Involved.
to
Mm.
in e-commerce company, you can talk with your friends there all day. They are customers anyway. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's easier to invite if we talk about e-commerce for sure. Yeah. I agree.
Absolutely.
I think that's all for today, Carsten. Thank you so much for joining us today. You gave a different perspective to CX and how to drive actions using OKRs. I loved listening to it, learning from you, and I hope the same with our audience and also NK. So thanks a lot, everyone. We'll be back again next week with another rocking CX thought leader. Till then, stay safe and good day. And have a good day too, Carsten and NK. Very pleasure speaking with you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot. Okay.